Osterhaus. I'm here with you to share a quick tip today about how I think the world of information and technology is really helping coaching and playing and practicing golf in the modern era. I've got a knockdown shot here, pretty elevated tee shot as well with quite a bit of crosswind. Today, not as windy, but normally this is a pretty windy spot on the golf course. So what I want to do is I want to try and flight the ball a little lower and a little flatter. And what we know from new technology in launch monitors is that the best players in the world tend to have a pretty flat, penetrating ball flight. In fact, most of their shots tend to have a pretty similar height in terms of trajectory, from a sand wedge all the way up into a driver. They're hitting it lower and more boring than you would think. So what we want to do is we want to educate ourselves to hit this same kind of shot. This is going to be the most beneficial in windy conditions. So what we do to achieve this kind of trajectory is we get a forward-leaning club shaft, and we get a dynamic loft, or an effective loft of the club at impact, that's quite a bit less than what the club actually is. So if we're hitting a 6-iron, we're going to de-loft that club down into the 15, 16, 17 degree area. Now, we combine that with a shallower angle of attack, okay, one that's zeroed out a little bit more. Normally when we get players that try to get a little bit more dynamic loft, a little better dynamic loft at impact, a little more of a club shaft leaning forward, we tend to get too steep. Okay, so with this shot especially, the knockdown shot, we want to make sure we're shallow but still achieving that good forward leaning club shaft at impact, a good dynamic loft. So we're going to do two things here. We're going to put a tee into our glove like this. Okay, it's going to give us a little feedback if our left wrist breaks down a little bit. Okay, if our left wrist breaks down, generally we're going to be adding loft to the club, which we don't want to do. So tee in the left wrist, and we've got a ball teed up fairly high. Okay, the reason I'm teeing the ball fairly high is if I'm too steep, I'm going to go right underneath that ball with a hybrid. Okay, so I'm going to teach my body to achieve good impact position with a little shallower angle of attack. All right, so I take my target. And as I do that, I notice my ball flight tends to flatten and it tends to be more penetrating. So now, here's where the performance coaching side comes into it. Once I've done that on the range quite a bit, and I've got the feel for what that is, and most importantly, once I've got a good image in my mind of what that ball flight needs to look like, now I can go ahead and focus on that when I'm playing. So I've got my elevated tee shot. I don't get the luxury of that tee anymore. I'm going to pick my target, and most of all, I'm going to try and swing free and stay committed to that kind of boring, penetrating trajectory that I created in my practice. So I get a good image of that in my mind, because the body will tend to produce the shot following the images that we create for it. I shallow out my plane a little bit, my angle of attack. I get a good boring ball flight, and I'm in the fairway. I hope this helps. And remember, when it comes to coaching and instruction, try to find someone that can properly integrate the new technology that's out there with swing dynamics and swing analysis, in addition to how the body moves. This is the new way of coaching in the 21st century.